Hola amigos, ¿cómo están ustedes? Bienvenido a la clase de español. Hope you're doing well. I hope that you guys have been able to stay on top of your school. Please let me know if there's something I can do to help you or pray for you with life and with school and with COVID-19 on the rise. For today, let's get started with our Spanish. We're going to be looking at the preterite form of verbs. Again, this is preterite lesson number 3. If you're following along in the Study Spanish guide, it is lesson number 68, preterite 3. We're going to start by reviewing what preterite is and the regular conjugations for AR and the ER-IR preterite conjugations. But then we'll get into the lesson where we're learning some new content today. We're going to be looking at how the preterite form of verbs change when the present tense form has a root change in the middle of the word. Hey guys, welcome back. All right, let's get started on working on these preterite verbs and endings. We're working with Study Spanish number 68. If you want to go to the lesson, you can. I've taken the information, rearranged it a little bit into a PowerPoint, so hopefully it helps you. But head to Study Spanish number 68. That's the lesson for today if you want to follow along. But let's do a little bit of review first. What is a preterite? It's a past tense set of conjugations for events that have a definite beginning and an end. So this is a specific time frame, like yesterday, which had a definite beginning and an end. Preterite endings are different for AR verbs and for ER and IR verbs, and we're going to look at some differences again between the ER and the IR verbs as well. But just as a refresher, AR verbs end in E with an accent. So haste, o, amos, which is the same as the present tense indicative form. Hasteis, which is the vosotros form, and you don't usually use that in South America. And aron. So hablaron. Okay, so the ER and IR verb endings are E with an accent. Notice the similarities between the AR and then the ER and IR verbs. So iste, yo, imos, istes, and yeron. So what we're looking at specifically today is how the preterite form looks for verbs that change their root in the present tense indicative form. So an example of that would be entender. The E, the second E, entender changes to IE, entiendo when you conjugate it. So we're going to look at how those words that change their root in the present tense, what happens to them in the preterite tense. First, AR and ER verbs that change their stem in the present tense, like entender, do not change in the preterite tense. So if it does change to entiendo, then the I understood, the preterite tense, would not be entiendi, it would be entendi. You don't change the E to an IE in the preterite tense. And they're just conjugated like other regular preterite verbs by changing the suffix on the end. Notice here, entiendo changes to entendi all the way down, all of them. Even words that didn't have a root change, like entendemos, stays the same, entendimos. And those that did, like entiende, changed to entendió. Be careful not to confuse the E to IE change in the present tense with the preterite suffix for ER verbs. Notice the suffix for ER verbs in the preterite tense for third person plural is ieron, I-E-R-O-N. That IE is not the same as the IE changing in the root in the present tense, and so don't confuse those. Cerrar, cerrar. Okay, let's look at cerrar. The present tense for AR verbs, the endings are o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Everyone should know that, like the back of their hand. The preterite tense for AR verbs is the typical haste, o, amos, astes, aron. But notice, cerrar is an E to IE root changing verb in the present tense, and it doesn't change in the preterite tense. It is just CE, not CIE, for cierro, cierras, cierra. Okay. The IR verbs, however, that change their stem in the present tense do change in the preterite tense, but only for some of them, and we'll look at why. They change the E, I, and the OU. Those change as well in the third person singular and plural. Again, third person, he, she, it, they, singular and plural. Okay, the E to IE does change often in the present tense, but it doesn't change in the preterite for every time that it changes. Only for third person singular and plural. So prefiere is the present tense. The preterite tense is prefiro, not prefero or prefiero. It changes from E to IE in the present tense, and then in the preterite tense it changes from IE to I. So the preterite tense changes for the IR verbs that do have a root change by taking away the E that is in the present tense. So it changes from prefiere to prefirio, and from prefieren to prefirieron. They change the E to I and the O to U in the third person. Notice it changes from E, preferir, to I, prefirio, in the singular and plural, and the O to a U in a root changing verb with an O in the root. Okay guys, thanks. That was it. I hope that was helpful working through the lesson the way that we did with PowerPoint. Let me know what works and what doesn't work for you, and we'll try to make these better every day.